Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by former Holy Cross and Vermont women's hockey player Antonia Matzka. Antonia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And how's everything going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Obviously, you've been up to You've been up to a lot since you graduated Vermont last year, playing in the PHF with the Buffalo Buttes. But besides all of that, I'm curious what you've been up to since graduating college last year.
So I went home back to Austria for the summer after graduating, which was nice and honestly like took a step back from like school obviously, but also from hockey. I was just like training in the gym all summer, didn't skate too much. Was working at an outdoor bar, kind of just enjoying the summer and hanging out with family and friends back home and then I moved to Buffalo in the early fall and really got into that training and practice routine as a pro, which I've been really enjoying. And other than that, in Buffalo, I work a couple like side jobs like coaching, nannying, dog walking, stuff like that. And yeah, so it's been great.
Yeah, what's Buffalo like? Obviously, you guys got hit with that big snowstorm, so I know it's very snowy up there, but what's the city like outside of that?
It's a huge sports city. So, in the fall and the winter, like the Bills were huge. Like we would watch all their games, which was a lot of fun. Now we watch the Sabres a lot. But I like the city a lot. It's super welcoming people, super friendly. It's like I think they say it's like the city of good neighbors, like America's friendliest city or whatever. But yeah, it's a great place to be, like a tight-knit community, and that shows in our games too. So I've been enjoying it.
Now, do you still watch college hockey by any chance? And if so, what's your thoughts on this season and who you think will win the national championship?
For sure. Like I try to watch as much college hockey as I can. Obviously, I watch Holy Cross and Vermont in particular, but I even watch other games when I can. And I'm pretty bummed Vermont lost in the
Hmm.
hockey semifinals last night. But the national championship, I'm gonna go with Yale.
Hmm.
That'd be awesome.
I think Northeastern will probably win it this year just because they've returned so many of talented players and they have that experience of going on deep runs and they've been one goal shy a few years. So I feel like this is the year where they finally put it together and win it. So I want to see Mueller get one national championship. I feel like she
That's
deserves
true.
it.
And a Hockey East team, that'd be cool too.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work all the way up to where you are today. So, doing research on yourself, you're from Modeling, Austria. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. But talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, it's a small town close to Vienna, which is the capital of Austria, and I started playing hockey because my family and we lived like close to the outdoor rink in my town. And so my mom would take my brother and I like to the outdoor rink just to go skating. And then I think they asked my brother if he wanted to play hockey, and he's 2 years older than me. And so I would like watch him practice, and then eventually like I wanted to start too. So I played there like in for my town like boys team until I was around like 10 years old. And then we both changed like club teams and went to Vienna, where it was kind of like a little more serious and it was an indoor rink, and stuff like that. But definitely a different experience starting to play hockey over there versus in the US or Canada. Like hockey is not very popular, and especially for girls, like I was always the only or one of a few girls growing up that I knew that played. So
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you what's sort of the hockey scene like in Austria because the only thing I really know about Austria is that Mozart is from there. Other than that, I don't know too much about that country, but it seems like it's sort of growing a little bit because you see some guys getting drafted in NHL like Marco Rossi, and obviously yourself, you're having a lot of success in professional hockey. So I feel like it's starting to grow a little bit. At least since I started watching hockey a long time ago.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Especially men's hockey is becoming more popular, and there's some great talents on the men's side coming up from Austria, which is really exciting to see, and I'm glad it's growing. But yeah, for as a girl and now like a young woman playing, I like I know every girl, every woman in Austria that like seriously plays hockey. Like it's so small. Um, but it's also cool. Like you really feel like me being an Austrian ice hockey player, like it makes an impact. Like every single person that plays at a high level and takes it seriously and wants to grow it, like has like influence on the sport in the country. So while it wasn't always easy and it still isn't easy, like it's definitely like a cool thing that I'm glad I can be a part of.
Now, who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone in the NHL or was it someone that played in Austria? I'm curious if you watched any hockey as a kid.
I did watch hockey. We didn't watch the NHL too much just because of like we actually couldn't, like we couldn't
Hmm.
stream it or with the time difference, they'd be playing like in the middle of the night for us. But I think like I was most inspired probably by the other like Austrian like women's hockey players that were older than me. And I ended up like being on a team on the women's team that I played for at home when I was like 13, 14, 15. All the older national team girls were on that too, and I definitely always like looked up for to them and like learned a ton.
Now, before college hockey, it says that you played for the Berkshire School. I'm curious what made you want to come to the U.S. and pursue a career in college hockey, and talk about how you got the opportunity to go to the Berkshire School and play there.
Yeah, that actually kind of adds on to what I was just talking about. So, I stopped playing with the boys in Austria when I was around 14 years old and just played with that women's team in Vienna at that point. And um, there we would have every year there'd be like three or four like Canadians or Americans that had just graduated college and then they go over there to live in Europe and play. And so one of those girls that I got to play with, Caitlin Sperling. She had just graduated from Harvard, and her brother went to Berkshire School, and he came to visit and kind of like connected me. But I mean, I knew I wanted to play college hockey just because, as I said, as a girl in Austria, like there wasn't much like perspective for the future, and I knew that was the highest level that I would get to play at. So I don't really recall that I made like one day I was like, oh, I want to go over there. I feel like that was always kind of what I wanted to do. And seeing those girls that had just graduated college and then come over to my team, like I was like really amazed by them. And then that's when I knew if I wanted to get recruited, I would have to go over there and just practice with in better facilities, better practice times, surrounded by girls my age. Yeah.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about your experience at the Berkshire School and what you took away from that experience, and like what's the best memory I guess you have from your time there.
Yeah, I loved it there. I mean, just the school itself and the entire like prep school system was perfect for me, I think, at the time. Hockey wise, we had a super small team the 3 years that I was there. I think there were like 12 to 15 skaters. Um, but we were like all best friends. Like we were so, so, so close. And we spent all day, every day together. And I think that's when I really like learned what it was like to like be on a great team and support each other and um I don't know, like really be a good teammate and want the best for your teammates and like just kind of like be that puzzle piece to a team and achieve a goal together. So yeah, I think just like how tight knit that team was is my best memory.
And was the transition from Austria to USA difficult, or was it sort of seamless? Because obviously the hockey side, that's one thing, but just from a life aspect as well, going from one country to another, that must have been sort of a culture shock a little bit. So sort of how did you adjust to that?
Yeah, I think my first couple of weeks, there was like an adjustment period, but I mean, that school was just such a supportive environment, and I had so many people there, like helping me from like my hockey coaches to my teachers to my dorm parents and all my friends and teammates. Like, they really made that transition like seamless. And I think by the end of my first semester, I couldn't picture it any other way. And I just really like that school and how it incorporated like academics and hockey. That's always what I dreamed of and what I couldn't have at home. So once I had that, I was just like fully immersing myself in it. And yeah, I was welcomed with open arms and surrounded by the best people too. So it wasn't too bad.
Now, talk about your recruitment process to Holy Cross. How did that work out for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at the time?
So I didn't visit Holy Cross until the fall of my senior year in high school. And I was kind of like stressed out at that point. And it was kind of like last minute that I decided to go visit there with another teammate. And it hadn't been on my list and it hadn't been what I pictured myself going to really. But then I like stepped foot on campus and I talked to the coaching staff and I saw some girls on the team. And then I they like it all happened quickly and it was easy. And I think at that point I was so over that whole recruitment process and they just made it seem easy. It was a place I could picture myself at. It's a great school academically. It's beautiful. It's and I knew they were going to Hockey East. And then I like decided that I was gonna like also want to be part of a program that was transitioning, a program that was growing and kind of like take on that responsibility. So yeah, it was this honestly a super quick and an easy decision once I had visited.
And heading into college hockey, what was sort of the biggest adjustment you had to make to your game? Was it the speed of the game, the physicality, or just the decision making, especially as a defender, since you have to make quicker decisions with the puck?
I think yes, the speed both like like in the game itself as well as the decision making. You just even once you have the puck, even if you have the ability to skate fast enough or to like make a good pass, like just thinking of it right in that moment was something that I had to get used to. And then also, I think just the importance of systems and like playing as a unit and like even just small aspects of the game like face-offs or blocking shots. That was something I feel like I didn't really like pay much attention to in high school and then in college it's in college hockey that those are just things that make such a big difference.
Yeah, I feel like watching it from afar, the difference between junior and women's college hockey and the Division One level is sort of the time and space you have offensively is sort of the biggest difference that I notice as a fan, just because you have such less time to sort of make a pass or make a shot, and you sort of have to learn to figure out how to shoot as quickly as possible, but also make it as accurate as possible as well. And that's something that I see players work on all the time.
For sure, yeah.
Now, talk about your Holy Cross experience, especially as a freshman, because doing research on it, basically Holy Cross was transitioning from Newha to Hockey East. And your freshman year, you played at Newha. So just talk a little bit about that season. And you made it all the way to the Newha semifinals, it looks like, and lost to Franklin Pierce in that game. So what'd you take
Yeah.
away from that season and making it all the way to the semifinal game in your conference championship?
Oh wow, that's a long time ago. I haven't thought about that in a while, but yeah, that was a I think that was a good season for the Holy Cross program just in general. Like we were part of the Newhall League, but I think technically we were like D1 independent. So all of our out of conference games were against D1 opponents. which was really cool. Like we were all so pumped to like face like Harvard and Dartmouth and all these teams like for the first time ever in program history. And even like got away with a win against Harvard. That was huge. Um, and then yeah, like the New Hell League. Um, I mean, definitely, I don't know, now me and my friend Allison Atia, who is also on the Buffalo Boots with me and I went to Holy Cross with, we're like at this point we're like, oh, we're grateful for like that season in Newha because it kind of like saved our stats from college hockey a little bit.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's still like a great league. Got like the necessary experience, especially combined with those games against D1 opponents. So I think that was a really great year for Holy Cross to go through that transition. And that semifinal game was frustrating. I think everybody expected us to win. We expected to win, couldn't score. And then that was just, yeah, a disappointment. But we moved on from it and we were really excited to go into that next season in Hockey East.
Yeah, what was the biggest difference you've noticed from the style of play between Newha and Hockey East and just Division 3 versus Division 1?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, kind of like comparing high school to college, like so much less time and space, like such a faster pace of game. Um, I mean, the physicality was pretty high in Newha too, I think, at that point. But yeah, I just remember like facing our first few opponents in Hockey East and they were just like skating circles around us. So just like the pace of the game and then finding like the right systems that we as an underdog in a new program could like come up with to like face all these like great schools. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, speaking of the transition from Newha to Hockey East, you also had a coaching transition that year as well, going from Coach Van Buskirk to Coach LaChapelle. Talk about what that coaching transition was like because it seemed pretty seamless. And also just talk about what it was like playing under Coach LaChapelle and what you learned from her. Because in my opinion, I think she's doing an amazing job with the program. I think you just see it this year how much they've improved in years past. And I really feel like she's putting that program in a good direction. And she seems like a great coach from what everyone has been telling me. I want to hear your perspective, what it was like playing under her.
Yeah, Coach Chappelle is awesome. She is honestly like such a mentor to me, and she was probably like the most important coach I've ever had in my life. And we ended up getting like super, super close working together. And she was already the associate head coach under Van Buskirk my freshman and sophomore year. So, and she really like she was a little more in the background my freshman year, and then she really stepped into kind of that leadership role by my sophomore year. So once she was the head coach, it didn't feel like much had changed, honestly, but um, she had such a great way of respecting like Peter's like legacy, but then also obviously implementing new things that were needed for this new program. But yeah, she is an amazing coach and an amazing person. She somehow still think back to that. Like we obviously that first season was super rough in Hockey East, and she somehow still always like I remember Monday practice, like coming back after the weekend after a day off, and I mean with our record, like probably having suffered two losses on Friday and Saturday. But she still somehow like found the right words on Monday's practice to motivate us to have us like keep working towards our goals to tell us that we were making progress, we were doing the right things in this whole process and that it was going to be a long process, but that it would be worth it and that eventually we would see it on the scoreboard too. So and even during my 3 years in Hockey East, like every year we improved a lot and we every year we beat teams that we had never beaten before. And she enjoyed that with us just as much as we did as the team. And yeah, she really knows what she's doing and she's keeps on building and I'm really excited to see where she takes the program in the next few years.
And your first hockey win happened to come against number five ranked Northeastern. You won that game 5-3. I just want to ask you about that game and how good it felt to sort of get that win under your belt, but beat a team like Northeastern and do it in front of your home fans.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that's like one of the things that you look back at and you're like, I can't believe that even happened, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were all speechless, but we were all so happy to just show everyone that we were there, like rightfully. We were in the league for a reason, and that could happen to any team. We could, I mean, beating the number one team in the league and the number five team in the country, I think showed everyone that they had to respect us as an opponent because it could happen to anyone at any day. So I'm really glad that it kind of like made us a real competitor in Hockey East. And yeah, that is definitely like my most memorable win from my time at Holy Cross.
And you were named captain of the team, I think during your junior season. So, talk a little bit about what it was like being named captain and what type of leadership did you want to bring to the team? Were you more of a vocal leader or lead by example? Because I feel like you as a captain, that's such sort of a tough time period because you get what guys were getting a lot of young players coming to the team, but you also had to deal with the pandemic as well on top of that. So, I'm curious sort of what your leadership style was like and sort of how you took on that role.
Yeah, I think that I wasn't always comfortable with being a vocal leader, but I really like immersed myself into that role and really like learned how to be a vocal leader when we needed it. And then other than that, I think my leadership style is definitely like lead by example. Like I put my best effort and 100% into everything I do. And I see every day as a way to get better. And even when we have a losing record, and even when we're not making playoffs, like I wanted to show my teammates, like we're still showing up every day and we can still get better and it doesn't matter. So that's something that I really, really wanted to show as a captain. And yeah, then my senior year was the COVID year. And that was a really rough year, especially being a captain, because all of a sudden it wasn't just about hockey and it wasn't just about being a good teammate and kind of like trying to find that harmony on the ice and off the ice and create like a good team atmosphere. But it was like kind of like you as a captain had a responsibility to implement some like of this honestly stupid like COVID rules that the school or the league like gave us. And yeah, that was really tough. And I really didn't like being I don't know, like someone who was like telling people what to do and telling them, oh, this is right, this is wrong, when it was like completely normal things in like a normal year. So that definitely challenged me as a leader, but I learned a lot from it. I think I really improved my like honestly like resiliency. Like I remember that year, like at some point there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't on the phone with coach and there wasn't another like bad news that we had to like deal with. And
Mhm.
but eventually like it made us super resilient. It made us overcome like all those hurdles like put in our way and still like try to make the best out of the season and enjoy it as much as possible. So yeah.
Now, when you look back on it today, like what do you take away from your experience at Holy Cross, and how do you think it's helped you today as a professional hockey player?
I am so grateful for my time at Holy Cross. I think that was exactly what I needed, being part of a growing program of a program new in the league, that was that had the underdog role, which I ended up like really enjoying. It made me work my ass off. It made like it showed me that like you have to like earn everything and then to take nothing for granted and that you have to give your best effort every time you step on the ice, you go in the gym, you do anything. And it also brought me some of my best friends. We had great teams throughout my 4 years, and as I've mentioned, Coach LaChapelle was an awesome leader that I got to play for, and Coach Meredith Roth too. She was my D coach, and I loved working with her. So yeah, that really Holy Cross really made me the player I am today, and I think it still shows in my game what I learned there.
And unfortunately, you weren't able to take a fifth year at Holy Cross because they don't offer any grad programs. So, talk about your transfer to Vermont. Why did you want to go to Vermont, and just what was that process like for you?
Yeah, so I remember my senior year. I kind of like started getting a little worried because I knew I wanted to keep playing, but I didn't know if it was going to be a fifth year, or if I was going to go play pro already at that point, or like if I was going to stay in the US or go back home. And then we went up to Vermont, I think in late December that year, and played up there. And they had just turned things around completely from the year before. Like my junior year, we swept Vermont with Holy Cross. And then my senior year, we got up there and they were skating circles around us and they were so good. And you could just tell like that team like loved playing together. They had such a cool like style of play, like the way they possessed and like passed the puck within the team. I was just like amazed by. And my teammate, my from Austria, Teresa Schaftal, she was on that team, and I knew how much she loved it, and I had heard like how great of a team atmosphere, how great of girls they have up there. So when we played up there, I was like, wow, like this is a really neat place. And then I made the decision in January to enter the transfer, or even I think before I entered the transfer portal, it was actually Coach Plumer who had reached out to Coach LaChapelle and was like, "You guys don't have grad school, right?" And she was like, "No, like, I hope you're asking for Tony." And he was like, "Yeah." And then I got in touch with him, and I think within a week, I had talked to all the coaches and kind of made my decision. And I was already so impressed by that weekend up there that we played against them that it couldn't have been easier.
Now, just talk about your experience at Vermont. It was sort of kind of a little bit different than Holy Cross in the sense where you guys were consistently like one of the top 15 teams in the country. So just talk about that experience, but also how did you sort of maintain that consistency throughout the regular season, and what was it like being on a ranked team and having that target on your back every single weekend?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I loved last year at UVM. I mean, as I said, like it's such a great team. They have such great people that welcomed me with open arms, and the transition couldn't have been easier. But I think we kind of surprised ourselves, like with how good we ended up being. I mean, we knew the talent we had, we knew the skills and the work ethic. And like my first few practices at UVM, I was like, wow, like everyone is so good. Like, wow, this team is going to be good. And then we started playing, and I honestly don't think we did that well in the first like
It was
couple
like
weeks.
December when you guys started like winning like
Yeah,
10 or 15 games in a row or something like that.
right. That I think that started in January, but um yeah, I don't know. We ended up like beating BC for the first time ever, and I don't know how long. And we just kept on beating teams that we weren't supposed to beat, and we kept on like even if we didn't beat teams, like we kept on, or if we did, like just the way we played, we just outplayed them, and we showed ourselves like how good we are and how well we play together and how the systems that our coaches were giving us were just working so well. So it was unreal, honestly, just how we were in that flow of like just playing so well together and enjoying each other's company so much and loving being on that team. Um, and then yeah, in January and February, I think we went on a 12 game winning streak. And at that point, we actually didn't have any of our Olympians because they were all gone for the Olympics. So that meant that people had to step up and step into roles that they like weren't like assigned like normally, but I think that just helped us more. Everybody really brought their A game to whatever we needed them to do. Um, and everyone was just so happy to be part of that team and accepted any role that they were given and just gave it their all. Yeah, so it was really a really cool experience.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people had the expectation that you guys were going to make it to the hockey's championship game against Northeastern, but unfortunately, you guys lost to UConn in the semifinals, and that ended up being your final college hockey game. I just wanted to ask you what emotions were you feeling after that loss, and sort of how have you sort of processed that season and that game today when you look back on it?
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about this today because it was exactly 1 year ago
Oh
today.
wow, I didn't know
So
that. I'm sorry about that.
no, it's okay. Got some memories on my phone, but yeah, I mean, it was really sad. We were especially really frustrated because it wasn't for lack of anything.
No,
It
their
was
goalie was. I think it was like you guys. Their goalie like made some like five like incredible saves to sort of keep them in that game.
right. Yeah. So it was just unfortunate. Like the luck wasn't on our side. And like obviously credits to UConn. They were also like such a good team last year, like really, really hard to play against. So we knew it wasn't gonna be easy. We definitely knew that. But yeah, first and foremost, we were all just like so sad that that season came to an end. I think I'm not only speaking for myself when I say it was like best season we've ever had and just the greatest team we've ever been a part of. But yeah, it took a couple weeks to process and then like I think most of all, I was just super grateful that I had that experience, that I had that fifth year and I got to go to exactly that school and I got to be on that team. And everybody was talking about us and everybody knew how like well we did. And it was just a really, really cool thing to be a part of. And then we all just like enjoyed our spring and summers in Vermont, which are also really nice.
Yeah, I heard Burlington's one of the best cities in Hockey East. I'm assuming you agree with that, or is Worcester's
For
what has
sure.
better food, Worcester or Burlington?
Worcester grew on me, and it's definitely like it gets a bad rep, but Worcester is also it's a good place. But yeah, Burlington's beautiful
Mhm.
and really fun and lots of things to do. Yeah.
Well, I was reading somewhere where Worcester's like the fastest growing like food city in the US or something like that, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Like what, and I
Yeah.
heard Burlington has a good food scene as well. So I just remember thinking that was. I'm like, wonder which one she thinks is better.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Burlington, but
Mhm.
don't sleep on Worcester. It's coming.
Yeah. It's the only thing that I don't like about Worcester is just the hills and like how difficult it is to drive there. It's like very scary sometimes, like even just like Boston is, but like a little more underrated. Like I think everyone knows like to sort of white knuckle it a little bit in Boston, but in Worcester, like
Yeah,
this, the hills and all that stuff is definitely something that is hard to get used to, but luckily I have.
for sure. Yeah. Do you live in Worcester?
Yes, I do. I go to school in Worcester, so.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Mhm. So, just one more hockey question before we get to the non-hockey segment. But when you look back on your college hockey career, I'm just curious, like, what, how has it helped you as a pro athlete today, and how has it helped you as an adult as well? Just looking back on your college hockey experience and just the things that you learned at Holy Cross and at Vermont.
I mean, it's really shaped me into the person I am today. I mean, from teaching me time management and getting everything like done, like school, practice, workout, socializing, like all of that stuff. I mean, that's invaluable to me, and I think that's going to help me like throughout my entire life, just to be able to deal with a lot of things going on at the same time. And I mean, other than that, it's taught me how to be not only a good teammate, but a great teammate. It taught me how to deal with unfortunate situations that you can't control and try to make the best out of the things you can't control. It's I don't even know. I feel like it's literally taught me everything that I know now is from going to college and playing a D1 sport. and meeting like the best people along the way. And I think that's what made it all like so memorable for me is that I look back at it and even while I was doing it, I was like, wow, like we're doing the same thing every single day and it's so much work and it's really hard and we're really tired, but every day was still so much fun and I enjoyed every single day because I was going through it with my teammates. And no matter what we were doing, we were having the best time ever. And I think just being surrounded in that environment with your like 20 amazing girls and some of your best friends, like that's just you can't compare that to anything else. And that just made every single like minute worth it.